So the topic today is development of the veins and the anomalies. Our objectives are to first describe the embryonic venous system, then we will see how the superior and the inferior vena cava are derived from the primitive system, and lastly we will discuss the anomalies of the system. Well, before going to the embryonic system of veins, let's look at the adult venous system. We have two large vessels, that is the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava, opening in the right atrium, and the superior vena cava is draining the upper part of the body, or the uh, upper extremities, and the thoracic region, and the head and neck region, including the brain. So we have the internal jugular, which meets the subclavian, and also the external jugular opens into it, and the two brachiocephalic veins which are formed. This is the right one and this is the left one, which are formed by the union of the internal jugular and the subclavian. They will form the superior vena cava, and the inferior vena cava is draining the abdominal structures, the pelvis, and the lower extremities. So you have already done the development of the heart from the heart tube, and you know that the sinus venosus is the venous end of the heart tube or the cardiac tube, and the sinus venosus has got two horns, the left horn and the right horn, and each horn has got opening of three sets of veins, that is the vitelline, the umbilical, and the common cardinal vein. And the common cardinal is formed by the anterior cardinal and the posterior cardinal vein. So that means at fourth week we have three sets of veins, vitelline, umbilical, and the cardinal. So the vitelline arises from the yolk sac, and this venous system, or the system of veins, is forming anastomosis around the gut tube, different parts, and we will talk about the anastomosis around the duodenum because it gives rise to certain important adult structures. This vein passes through the septum transversum, which later on forms the diaphragm and reaches the sinus venosus. Apart from vitelline, we have the umbilical veins, the right and the left initially, which are arising from the placenta, from the chorionic villi, you can see over here, and later on we have only one umbilical vein. Then we have the cardinal system, that is the common cardinal vein, which is receiving the anterior cardinal, which is draining the upper part of the body, and the posterior cardinal, which is draining the lower part of the body. So apart from these cardinal veins, that is the anterior, posterior, and common, we have three more sets of veins, that is the subcardinal, supracardinal, and the sacrocardinal. So you can see, apart from the common cardinal, anterior, and the posterior cardinal, we have one system which is called the supracardinal, having two veins and anastomosing channel. You will see in all the systems, this is one common thing, that you have right and left pair of veins and an anastomosing channel. Then we have the supracardinal veins, and they are roughly in the region of the kidney, that is in the lumbar region, and then we have the sacrocardinal veins, and they are lying below the subcardinal system, roughly in the sacral region. Now, before we discuss the formation of the larger veins, that is the superior vena cava, the inferior vena cava, uh, what is common to all is that these superior and inferior vena cava in the adult body, you have seen that they are not in the midline. They are unpaired structures and they are present on the right hand side. So basically during the derivation or the development, there is a shift of vessels and the shift of blood from the left hand side towards the right hand side. That is the basic idea behind the development of these vessels. Now, first of all, we will see what will happen to the anterior, posterior, and the common cardinal veins. The anterior cardinal veins on both sides, if we trace them up, they will develop into the internal jugular vein. And if you see in the diagram, which is a very smaller one, this is from the KLM, and they have described and shown the jugular vein and the internal jugular vein and the external jugular vein and the subclavian vein also, which are not shown in this diagram, but that is understood that when we are talking about the larger veins, smaller ones are joining them. So the upper part of the anterior cardinal veins on both sides will form the internal jugular vein. Now the anastomosing channel, which is connecting the two anterior cardinal vein, will form the left brachiocephalic vein. The left brachiocephalic vein, and on the right hand side, although they have not shown over here in this picture, but the part of the anterior cardinal vein which is joining the common cardinal, this portion will form the right brachiocephalic vein. Now the superior vena cava is formed by the right common cardinal vein and the adjacent part of the anterior cardinal vein. Common cardinal, right, and the adjacent part of the anterior cardinal. So if you could imagine that in adults, the left brachiocephalic and the right brachiocephalic, they join to form the superior vena cava. Now, apart from this, we have on the left side the left posterior cardinal vein, that is in most of its length is obliterated, except for its part which is opening up in the common cardinal, that it is forming the left superior intercostal vein. And on the right hand side, only the part adjacent to the, or which is opening up in the common cardinal vein, this portion will form the root of the azygous vein. So what we have done, we have seen the fate of the anterior cardinals, and then how the superior vena cava is formed, and the left superior intercostal from the posterior cardinal vein. Now, when we are saying that the superior vena cava is formed from the common cardinal of the right hand side, what happens to the left hand side? The left hand side blood is shifted on the right hand side. So, on the left hand side, the common cardinal is no longer functional and it is obliterated. And as you have seen in the development of the heart, what happens to the left sided this sinus venosus horn, left horn, it will convert into coronary sinus and the oblique vein of the left atrium. That is what happens to it. So basic idea is that on the left hand side structures are obliterating, and on the right hand side the adult structures are being formed. So now we will talk about the formation of the inferior vena cava. Inferior vena cava is formed by different sets of veins, and in different segments it is formed. So first of all we will talk about the subcardinal system of veins, and the subcardinal system of veins will form the renal segment of the inferior vena cava. So inferior segment means the segment of the inferior vena cava which is lying around the kidneys, and because the renal veins are coming from the kidneys and they are joining the inferior vena cava. So the cardinal veins again, they are two, they are paired structures, and they have one anastomosing channel as well. So when the right cardinal vein forms the renal segment of the inferior vena cava, what will happen to the left cardinal subcardinal vein? It will obliterate, but part of it will form the left gonadal vein. Left gonadal vein. That is the vein which is coming either from the ovary or the testes. What happens to the anastomosing channel? That will form the left renal vein. Left renal vein. So in adults you will see that the left renal vein is longer as compared to the right renal vein. Here we have they have shown us the renal segment of the inferior vena cava which is formed by the right subcardinal vein. Then the anastomosing channel between the two subcardinal vein is forming the left renal vein, and part of this subcardinal vein that is below the anastomosis is forming the left gonadal vein. Now coming to the sacrocardinal or the post renal segment of inferior vena cava. So another set of veins, that is the sacrocardinal veins, are also present, and you can see that they are in communication with the subcardinal venous system. And again they have pair veins and anastomosing channel in between. And the right-sided subcardinal vein will give rise to the sacrocardinal segment of the inferior vena cava, and the anastomosing channel between the two will give rise to the common iliac vein, and rest of the left sacrocardinal vein will obliterate. So this is the adult picture, that is the sacrocardinal segment is shown over here, and they have shown us the anastomosing channel which now has formed the left common iliac vein. Now the supracardinal veins, what the supracardinal veins are doing. The supracardinals and the subcardinals, both, they are meant to replace the function or take up the function of the posterior cardinal veins. So supracardinal veins, what they will be doing, they are again two vessels and which are joined by an anastomosing channel. Now on the right hand side, the right supracardinal will form the azygous vein. And if you remember, we talked about the root of the zygous vein, that the root of the zygous vein is formed by the posterior, this is the posterior cardinal vein. It's a part which is in communication with the common cardinal vein. This small part will form the root of the zygous vein, and rest of the posterior cardinal is obliterated. Now, on the left hand side, the supracardinal, left supracardinal will form the hemiazygous vein, which will receive the 4th to 7th intercostal veins. And the anastomosing channel is the is present in the adults, because you have seen and you remember that the hemiazygous vein communicates with the azygous vein. So this anastomosing channel will remain functional in the adult life to connect the hemiazygous with the azygous vein. Now, here is the picture of inferior vena cava with its different segments: hepatic, renal, sacrocardinal, and you can see that there is one more picture on the left hand side. This is from KLM, and they have shown the formation of the inferior vena cava in different segments. Hepatic is same as shown in this. This is from Langman. But there are certain pre-renal segment, then renal segment, and post-renal segment. The pre-renal is same as that of the renal segment. They have shown that is derived from the subcardinal veins. They have shown that the pre-renal segment is developed from the subcardinal vein. But the renal segment over here, shown in green, they say that it is derived from the subcardinal and supracardinal anastomosis. Actually, the supracardinals are very elongated. They are going down, and the segment we talked over here, that is the sacrocardial or sacrocardinal, that segment is described by the KLM as part of the supracardinal. That is the perhaps that is the only difference. Otherwise, the hepatic segment is same, and then we have the renal is more or less the same. Only difference lies over here. So, if you are reading from the Langman and the KLM, you shouldn't be confused about this portion of the development. Now, one segment we left, that was the hepatic segment. For that, we will look at the vitelline and the umbilical vein system, and it is the, so they have shown us the vitelline, paired vitelline, that is the left and the right. They are arising from the yolk sac, and they are forming anastomosis around the gut tube. And here they have shown us the anastomosis around the duodenum, which is important. Now, when the vitelline veins are passing through the septum transversum, there the liver has started developing, but that is small. The liver bud has just started developing. But later on, when the liver starts to grow up, what will happen, that the vitelline veins are interrupted by the liver, development of the liver, and they will branch, that is the vitelline veins will enter the liver, and they will branch to form sinusoidal capillaries called the hepatic sinusoids in between the plates of the hepatocytes. So they are forming a network inside the liver, and After that the vitelline then reaches the sinus venosus. So that means the blood which is present in the vitelines will first flow in the sinusoids, hepatic sinusoids, and then it will reach the sinus venosus. Now, at the same time, the umbilical veins which are arising from the placenta and they are bringing oxygenated blood, they, in this picture you can see that they are directly opening up in the sinus venosus. But again, when there is enlargement of the liver, what will happen? Some of the blood from the umbilical veins will come in contact with the hepatic sinusoids. That means the blood will flow through the hepatic sinusoids and then reach the sinus venosus. But that is partly. The rest of the blood will go directly. Now, the part of the vitelline veins which lie between the liver and the sinus venosus form the hepatocardiac channels. They are called hepatocardiac channels. This is to be noted because it is important for us. Now, with further development, we can see that gradually what happens to the vitelline vein is that above we could see that gradually the left hepatocardiac channel will narrow and gradually it will disintegrate, and most of the blood will channel through the right hepatocardiac channel, as you can see in this diagram. That is this one is obliterated. Let's use the pen. So this area is obliterated and only one channel, that is this channel, is connecting the vitelline with the sinus venosus, and this is the right hepatocardiac channel, and this will give rise to the hepatic segment of the inferior vena cava. One thing more you can see is that this channel is receiving within the liver two hepatic veins which are formed when these hepatic sinusoids they fuse together or they collect at one point and form the hepatic veins. Now, what happens to the lower part, that is the part which is caudal to the liver? What happens to the vitelline veins in this region? Now, the right vitelline vein, which is caudal to the liver, this will give rise to portal vein and superior mesenteric vein. You can see over here. This is the part of the right vitelline which is below the liver or caudal to the liver, and it give rise to the portal vein and the superior mesenteric vein. And the anastomosis, especially the anterior anastomosis between the right and the left, this anastomosis will give rise to the splenic vein and the inferior mesenteric vein, which is not labeled over here because they join up the inferior mesenteric, the splenic, and the superior mesenteric. They all collectively form the portal vein. Now that is all about the right vitelline vein. What will happen to the left? Left will obliterate. That is the post hepatic part, that is the part caudal to the this liver is obliterated, the left vitelline. Now coming to the umbilical veins. First of all, what will happen? The part of the umbilical veins, both sides, that is the right and the left, if we start from here, that is from the sinus venosus up till the below the liver. This portion of both sides is obliterated, or you can say this is the proximal part of the umbilical vein. This disintegrates on both sides. Now what will happen if this is disintegrated? Then whole of the blood which is coming along the umbilical veins will first pass through the hepatic sinusoids and then through the hepatocardiac channel will reach the sinus venosus. No direct channel will be present. The second change which will occur is that the right umbilical vein before the liver is also obliterated. Right umbilical vein, that is this structure, this is also obliterated. Now because of the large flow of the blood from the placenta, it is very difficult that blood will reach the liver substance, passes through smaller capillaries and then reaches the sinus venosus. So a channel is gradually developed. A dilated channel is developed in the middle, which bypass the hepatic sinusoids, so that the oxygenated blood which enters the liver will bypass these smaller spaces and go directly to the sinus venosus through the right hepatocardiac channel. Now you can see over here they have the channel is now very clear over here. Since the right umbilical vein is obliterated, whole of the blood from the placenta is coming to the liver, and the blood now directly passes through the ductus venosus, which is the channel, through the hepatocardiac channel to the sinus venosus. That is the pathway. Now what happens to this channel, that is the ductus venosus and the umbilical vein after birth? This ductus venosus will convert into a fibrous ligament which is called the ligamentum venosum. This is venosus, so this will form the ligamentum venosum. And the left umbilical vein, which is not functional after birth because there is no placenta and nothing, so what will happen? It will form the ligamentum teres, which this ligament is running in the lower border of a peritoneal fold which is called the falciform ligament, and that fold of peritoneum runs from the anterior abdominal wall towards the anterior surface of the liver. Now sinus venosus you have already done. So what will happen to the right horn and the left horn? The left horn, we said that it is forming nothing but the coronary sinus and the oblique vein of the left atrium, and the right horn of the sinus venosus will incorporate into right atrium. In this you have done already. Just see its adult remnant, that is the oblique vein of the left atrium and the coronary sinus, which represents the horn, the left horn. Now coming to the anomalies. First of all, we talk about the superior vena cava. Superior vena cava, you may have rather than right sided superior vena cava, you have a left sided superior vena cava. And if it is present, how it will be formed? The structures which are normally obliterated, that is the common cardinal vein and the part of the anterior cardinal vein, they will persist in this condition and they will form the left superior vena cava. And the communicating anastomosing channel which was forming the left brachiocephalic vein will form the right brachiocephalic vein, so that the right sided blood will come to the left side, and on the right side there will not be any superior vena cava. So the common cardinal and the anterior cardinal, which is forming part of the anterior cardinal, which is forming the superior vena cava on the right hand side, they will not develop. And how this superior vena cava will enter the heart or open up in the heart, they will do so by means of, because the common cardinal is opening in the heart, this horn, sinus venosus horn, so it will open up in the left horn, and left horn we know that is forming the coronary sinus. Now if there are double superior vena cava, then the right one will form SH, that is from the common cardinal and the right common cardinal and the anterior cardinal. Left again form in the way it is forming over here. Only thing which will be different is that the communicating channel, which was either forming the left brachiocephalic or the right brachiocephalic, normally it is forming the left brachiocephalic, but when there is left superior vena cava forming, then this channel will form the right brachiocephalic vein. So here we don't have any such structure. That means each of the superior vena cava will open up separately. Here this will open up in the on the left side in the coronary sinus, and the right superior vena cava will drain into the right atrium as such. So they have shown us one of the diagram to show us the persistence of the left superior vena cava and how it will open up in the coronary sinus. Now about the inferior vena cava. Inferior vena cava may be doubled, and doubled in the lower part, that is the post renal part. And how it will happen? It will happen when there is no obliteration of the left sacrocardinal vein. Remember that in the sacrocardinal system we had two right and left veins and anastomosing channel, and the right was supposed to form the sacrocardinal segment of the inferior vena cava, which was below the renal segment of the inferior vena cava. So this, which is normally is obliterated, the left sacrocardinal, it will persist. If it persists, then we have the double inferior vena cava. Now absent inferior vena cava. Now in absent inferior vena cava, usually it is the hepatic segment which is missing, and what will happen then? The renal portion or segment of the inferior vena cava is not joining, is unable to join the hepatic segment. Then it has to join the supracardinal venous system, and we know that supracardinal give rise to the azygous system. So that way the blood from the lower part, that is the lower part of the inferior vena cava, will reach the heart through the azygous system to the superior vena cava and then to the right atrium. That is the pathway. Renal segment, azygous system, then the superior vena cava, and then the right atrium. And that is because of the absence of the hepatic segment. Now the hepatic veins are directly, in this case the hepatic veins will directly open up in the right atrium. Now that is all.